In this video, I'm gonna show you how to edit viral Instagram talking head videos from scratch in DaVinci Resolve and After Effects. I'll walk you through this exact short you see on the screen right now, step by step. You're going to learn how to animate text and make cool animations. We will start with this engaging intro animation, then we will do one text animation that keeps people watching, and we finish off, of course, with this cool animation. Here's a quick look at what you will be able to create by the end of this tutorial. Last year I was burnt out, working 80-hour weeks for barely any profit. My mentor told me something. Stop working harder and start working smarter. Build systems that can work without you. I built systems for everything. Client onboarding, project delivery, and even sales. Now I work 30 hours and earn twice as much. Systems gave my life back, and it was the best decision I ever made. Look, the difference between talking head videos that blow up and those who get ignored isn't really the content, it's how you edit them. The editors who get millions of views, they know that every single animation needs to help the story, not just look cool. And if you're a video editor who wants to turn your editing skills into landing 2 to 5k clients every single month, you need to stick around because I've got something for you at the end. Alright, let's dive straight into editing this video. And the first thing I want to do is add some B-roll. I've already kind of thought out how I want this reel to become, so we're gonna have some B-roll, some animations, and then captions, and I'm also gonna animate some of the captions to make them pop and look good, especially in the hook. So now let's start off with the hook. I'm talking here about last year how I was burnt out and was working 80 hours weeks. So let's add in just some work clips right here. After you add in the B-roll, all you really gotta do is transcribe the video. So let's add some subtitles. If you select the in and out like this and you go up to timeline, you can find create subtitles from audio, and all you gotta do is really select English. I usually like to have this at 18. I think that's just a more slower and cool feel. And just like that, we have subtitles. The first thing we're gonna do is actually make this look nicer, so just select one of the subtitles, go to track, and the first thing we're gonna do is change the font. So I'm actually gonna choose Poppins, I think. Then the stroke is always at 1, I don't know why. Let's drag that to 0, and let's bold the text and zoom it out a bit to like 32, 33. And I usually like to clean up the captions a bit, so I make sure all of the spelling is correct. I take out all of the extra like dots and so on. It just kind of like distracts the viewer. And one more thing, let's make the captions pop a bit more. We're gonna change the positioning slightly. Come on, just like that. Somewhere there is pretty good. I'm also gonna add in a drop shadow, take the opacity to like 75, the blur, we can bring it up a bit, and then change the offset slightly. And also make sure that it doesn't cover your face, so either you have to change the positioning of the B-roll or then you change the position of the captions. Just one thing that you have to remember is you don't want to have the captions like jump around. So if the captions is here, right here, and then suddenly it's up here, it's very hard for the viewer to concentrate and keep the flow going. So let's continue with the hook. We're gonna add in and animate some text here in the beginning. So the first thing we're gonna do is actually bring out the text plus, and then listen again to the audio, what I'm saying, and we have already transcribed this video, so we don't have to write it out, we can just copy the transcription. Last year I was burnt out, so I want that to be a text, so I'm gonna copy just this. Before we continue, I like to always make one of these texts look good how I want the rest of them to be, and that's just easier because then I can just drag drag these clips like this and copy them with the same effects. So the first thing I usually do is change the font. We're gonna use this one, and we're gonna actually bold it, and now we can move on to the Fusion page. Now you can also do this in After Effects. We're gonna do the entire animation inside of After Effects, but I usually edit all of my videos in DaVinci Resolve and do the rough cuts and then all of my animations in After Effects. And this is very easy to do in the Fusion tab as well, so it's easier for me to keep everything inside one program. So the first thing we're gonna do is actually make this look pretty cool. So I want you to right click here in the inspector under the tools, and here you have character level styling. Select that, and now you can go into the modifier. This is cool because now we can change the style of each word or each like sentence or how many words you want to change. So I'm actually gonna make this a regular italic. I'm gonna size it up slightly, and now this one I want to be bold, and I'm gonna size this up a bit more. Let's see. Yeah, it's in the middle. It doesn't look like it, but yeah, like that. And we can actually, I feel like if we take this down a bit and go over to transform, we can add it like that, and that looks pretty good. So we basically build out a like frame that looks very nice. Now to make this pop even more, we can select the template here, press Shift and space. That brings up the select tool box, and here we can search for glow and add in the glow, the GLO glow right there. And now you see it adds a cool glow effect, and all we gotta do is change the glow size and the glow. So I usually like to bring up the glow size slightly and reduce the glow something like that. And that looks pretty good to me. Now if we go back and look at it, it looks very, very clean. Another thing to make this text pop even more, because you can see it blends into the background here to the B-roll, we can actually go in and add a effect, a drop shadow, and you can find it here in the effects panel under OpenFX, and just drag it to the clip, change the drop distance like that, and maybe the strength like so. Last year I was burnt out working 80. That's pretty good. And now we can continue to do the rest of the text. Now I want this to stand out a bit more. One thing we can do is go and change the color grade, but I actually like the color grade right here. I just want to darken the entire section right here. So a thing that we can do is actually drag in a adjustment clip like this and go to the color tab and make sure to select the adjustment clip right there. And then under this HDR, under the global, we have exposure. And if we change this, you can see it doesn't mess up the color grade. It kind of just like darkens the entire image, which is pretty cool. It's very easy to just do a adjustment clip, and you can move it around, crop it and change it. So I like to use adjustment clips for just darkening B-roll. And now we can actually start animating this even further, and there's so many animations we can do, but a very popular style and very viral editing style right now is actually just having it like captions to appear word by word. So it's very easy to do, and all we gotta do is listen to the audio, and when I say a certain word, we need to cut it out. So last year. So I'm gonna cut out last, and then year, and then I was burned. And it also helps if you look at the waveform down here. You can kind of see when you're saying one word. And now all we gotta do is basically, if we click on one of the texts here or words, and you scroll down under the inspector and title and text, you see right on. And what this does is it basically takes, when you bring it back, it takes one word away like this. So all we gotta do is now, like here, when I say last, if we go to the beginning, I bring it down and only have the word last. Then I go to the second one, and now I say year, so we have a year up here, and then the next one, and we have I, and then was, and so on. And just like that, we have now finished the entire hook and the section right here. Last year I was burnt out, working 80-hour weeks for barely any profit. And to even sell this even more and make it a better hook, I'm gonna add in a zoom out effect in the beginning. So let's add in a adjustment clip. We can make it shorter, and all we gotta do is add the first frame right here. Let's zoom in the clip to like 1.3, something like that. Add a keyframe, go a few frames forward, and then zoom out to 1 again. And then if we right click on the keyframe, we can ease in, and let's preview it. Just like that. Last year I was pops out. And to sell this effect even more, we can go over to OpenFX and add some lens blur. Go to the first frame. We can maybe bring the blur a bit down, and then add a keyframe. Open up the keyframe in the adjustment layer so we can see where we added the last keyframe where we zoomed out, and go there and drag the blur size down, and again ease in. And that's gonna add a blur effect so it looks like we're actually zooming out, and it comes into focus once we're all the way out. Last year I was burnt out working. And we're actually gonna make this text inside of After Effects. And all we really gotta do here to sell the effect even more is add in a adjustment layer. I'm gonna blur it out and make a zoom in effect. So what we can do is actually go over and grab the magic Zoom V3. This is a plugin, you can find it online, and it's free. Stop working harder and start working smarter. That basically makes it that can work without you. And now we can actually add in a blur effect, so a lens blur here. And let's just keyframe that in. So add a keyframe at the beginning and have the blur size at 0. When it zooms in, we then add in the blur like that. So again, keyframe when it starts zooming out, and then when it's all the way out, we just drag the blur size to 0. And here we're actually gonna drag this out slightly so it actually zooms in here, and that's pretty cool. And now all we gotta do is export the video and open it up in After Effects. Before we continue editing this video, I want to tell you something about Agency Hub. Agency Hub is our consulting community where we help editors hands-on to land high-paying clients. Not only that, we help them structure their business and make them better video editors. So if you're serious about video editing and you want to take your content agency to the next level, check out Agency Hub down below. Now that we're inside of After Effects, it's time to start animating the clip, and all we gotta do is drag it into the timeline, just like that. And now it's time for the second animation, and that's the text effect that is gonna show up right here. And after that, in the end of this video, we're actually gonna animate and make a very cool flashy animation at the end. So stay tuned for that. So to start this off, we're gonna add in the text that I'm saying right there. And that looks pretty good. We are actually gonna center it, so go to Align and make sure it's centered. Bring it down a bit and center it like that. And now we can actually look where the effect begins, and we can just cut it out like that. So it starts here. Stop working harder and start working smarter. And now to make this stand out a bit more, we're gonna actually bold harder and smarter. So let's just bold it it can actually be in italic like that, and that's gonna make the text pop a bit more. Now we're gonna add in a glow effect to make it pop a bit more and make it more cinematic. What I usually do is play around with the glow radius and the glow intensity, and that looks pretty good to me. And now we can actually start animating it. I want this text to, I don't want it to be anything crazy. All I want it is to come up in a smooth way. So if we open up the position, I'm actually gonna bring it down slightly, go a few keyframes forward, and once the image is zoomed in all the way, we're gonna bring it up to the original position somewhere there. And all we gotta do is ease the frames, so go over to the speed graph and make sure to ease it out so it's very smooth like this. Stop working harder, and we can actually drag out the animation slightly. And here, let's also change the opacity. So at the beginning, let's have it at 0. When it comes up, we're gonna bring it up to 100. Stop working harder and start working smarter. And now let's animate this out. So I want it to move up, and then the new text comes in like the last one did. And now build systems, we're gonna actually animate it out. So let's change the position like that, go a few frames forward, and then drag it up like so. And again, go to the speed graph, and all we gotta do here is actually change this around. So like this, like that, and again, the opacity we need to animate. So let's add a keyframe when it starts to go out of frame. So there, it starts moving. And then when it's all the way out, somewhere there, let's drag it to 0. And now it looks like this. Stop working harder and start working smarter. Build systems that... And we can actually move the entire thing slightly forward. So let's also add in the position and drag it smarter. Build systems and just play around with the keyframes until you're happy with the result. Smarter. Build systems. And now let's copy this, and it's gonna come in working smarter. And that's pretty good. I'm actually gonna change the position for the first text to be a bit slower like this. Smarter. Build systems that can work without you. I actually want to bold build systems, so let's bold that. And that is the animation already. Stop working harder and start working smarter. Build systems that can work without you. And now let's start with the animation. So the first thing that we want to do is actually bring in and do the background. So all we gotta do is actually bring in a new solid. And now let's add in a 4 gradient effect. So the 4 color gradient, just like that. And let's add the first color to a black color. The second color, we're gonna have a very dark blue. And then the third color is gonna be like a kind of pink, something like this, almost like a blue. And then the fourth one is also gonna be a black, and we can change the blend to actually 200 to smoothen it out a bit. And that looks pretty good to me. And after the background is ready, the first thing that we can start doing is actually adding in the numbers, the 1, 2, and the 3. So how you do it is you add a new shape layer. Over the shape layer, we're actually gonna make a rectangle like this, hold in Shift, so you get a perfect rectangle like that. And now we can play around with the size until we're happy. I think that looks pretty good. And again, for this one, let's add in a 4 color gradient effect and bring all of the 4 corners just like this. And this one I want to be kind of like a dark, bright gradient, and again, blue. And that looks pretty good to me. Now let's change the rotation to 45 degrees. and that should be good like that. Now we can see, I forgot to mention, but make sure that the corners are rounded. It just makes it look pretty cool and smooth. Now what we then can do is actually go to layer and layer style and inner glow. And let's add in the inner glow. So go to inner glow here and change the opacity to 100. We can change this color to a dark blue, something like that. And also bring up the size so you can see it. And also remember to add the blending mode to normal. And all we gotta do now is just bring the opacity down to 50, and that looks pretty good to me. Now to sell this effect even more and make it a lot more smooth, let's add in a light sweep effect. Just like that. And make sure to bring the center point to the center of it. And all we gotta do here is basically play around with the width and the sweep intensity. So we're gonna bring down the sweep intensity slightly and increase the width a bit. And now what we can then do is add in a glow effect. Make sure to add it above the light sweep, and we're also gonna add it on top. And now let's just play around with it. So increase the glow radius, and the intensity we can bring down slightly like that. And that looks pretty good to me. Now it's time to add in the number. So let's just add in a 1. So add in a text and then a 1 like that. Change the font to whatever you like. Increase the size and make sure that it's in the middle. What we can do is actually add a glow effect to this text also. And again, change the glow radius and the intensity. And now we can actually go over to the text and link this to the rectangle. So now if we move the position of the entire thing, everything moves smoothly. And at this point, I want to actually center it. So let's add it to the center. And again, once it's in the center, we actually have to go and change the light sweep position. So make sure that it's in the middle. And now all we gotta do is just copy these two times like that and change the positioning of them. So let's drag this to the middle, and then the last one, we're gonna bring it down there. And now what we need to do is change this to a 2 and this to a 3. Now all we gotta do is animate these one by one. So I want this 1 to actually move to the side, and then the text appears. With positioning, add a keyframe, go to the side a few keyframes and change the positioning to the side here. And all we gotta do is again change the speed graph and smooth out the animation. Client onboarding, project delivery, and event sales. And now what we want to do is actually animate the text in. So let's add in a text layer and write out the text. Make it smaller and just find the positioning where we want it to be. We're also gonna add the center point to the center of this text layer. Now what we can do is actually add in a glow effect to make this pop a bit more, increase the glow radius and reduce the glow intensity just like that. And that looks good to me. And now all we gotta do is actually animate the text. So I want it to start at the left and then move to the right once this one number moves to the left. So all we gotta do is actually add a keyframe at the positioning and the opacity, go to the right a few keyframes until it's there, and now we can add in keyframes. And at the beginning we want it to actually move to the side, so let's move it to the side somewhere there. All we gotta do is smooth out this animation in the speed graph, just like that. Client onboard. And now the opacity, let's bring it to 0 at the beginning. Client on, and that looks pretty good. Let's move the opacity a few keyframes forward so it looks smooth like that. So we're kind of faking a mask effect right here. Client onboarding, and that looks good. And now we just gotta do the same thing for all the other words. So let's just copy this, go over to when it starts moving there, and add project delete this in. And all we gotta do is again change the position of the text. So let's move it down, add it to the center, copy it, move it to the next keyframe, and paste in that project delivery, and that looks good. And then let's do it for the last one. The same thing goes here. Now we can just cut out all of the access here and change the words, of course. And just like that, the animation is ready. This is the final edit. Last year I was burnt out, working 80-hour weeks for barely any profit. My mentor told me something. Stop working harder and start working smarter. Build systems that can work without you. I built systems for everything. Client onboarding, project delivery, and even sales. Now I work 30 hours and earn twice as much. Systems gave my life back, and it was the best decision I ever made. Now, if you like this animation and you found this video helpful, you need to check out Agency Hub. Agency Hub is gonna take you from an average editor who struggles to actually land clients to a person who runs a thriving business and actually land clients consistently. Not only that, we're gonna help you build your personal brand, all of the systems, and help you actually scale. So if this is interesting and you actually want to scale your editing business and content agency, check out the link to Agency Hub below. I'll see you in the next one.